As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the empty streets, a sense of unease settled over the town New York. It was the kind of evening that sent shivers down the spine, where the normal sounds of laughter and chatter were replaced by an eerie silence. In the heart of the town, a lone figure lurked in the darkness. His face obscured by grotesque makeup and his clothes adorned with bright colors, the clown moved with a sinister grace, his eyes gleaming with malice as he prowled the deserted streets. His name was Mr. Chuckles, a name he had chosen for himself as he reveled in the fear he instilled in others. For Mr. Chuckles was no ordinary clown. He was a predator, preying on the unsuspecting souls who dared to cross his path after. Tonight, his sights were set on a young woman named Sarah. She walked briskly down the dimly lit street, her heart pounding with every step as she tried to shake off the feeling of being watched. But no matter how fast she walked, the sense of dread only grew stronger with each passing moment. Just as Sarah rounded the corner onto her street, a chilling laugh echoed through the night air. She froze, her breath catching in her throat as she spun around to face the source of the sound. Standing in the shadows was Mr. Chuckles. His painted grin stretched impossibly wide as he stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Sarah with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "Hello, my dear," he crooned, his voice dripping with malice. "What's the rush? Don't you want to play?" Sarah's heart hammered in her chest as she backed away, her mind racing with fear. She knew she had to get away from this monster, but her legs felt like lead, rooted to the spot by the weight of her terror. But just as Mr. Chuckles lunged forward, his hand outstretched to grab her, a voice cut through the darkness. "Leave her alone, you sick freak." Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief as a figure emerged from the shadows, brandishing a baseball bat with a determined glare. It was Joe, a neighbor who had always kept to himself, but who now stood between her and the clown with a courage she had never seen before. Mr. Chuckles snarled in frustration, his painted grin twisting into a grimace of rage. He lunged at Joe with a ferocity that sent Sarah reeling, but Joe was ready. With a swift swing of his bat, he struck the clown square in the chest, sending him staggering backward with a howl of pain. But Mr. Chuckles was not so easily defeated. With a snarl, he regained his footing and lunged at Joe once more, his fists flying in a frenzy of rage. But Joe was no ordinary man. He was a fighter, and he refused to back down in the face. With each blow he landed, Sarah felt a surge of hope rise within her. Maybe, just maybe, they could defeat this monster together and put an end to his reign of terror once and for all. And as the final blow fell and Mr. Chuckles lay crumpled on the ground, defeated and broken, Sarah knew that they had won. For in the darkness of that night, they had faced their greatest fear and emerged victorious, stronger together than they ever could have been alone. But as they stood there, breathing heavily in the aftermath of their battle, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. For in the shadows of New York, other monsters lurked, waiting for their chance to strike. And though they had won this battle, Sarah knew that the war was far from over.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two.
The moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows across the deserted streets of Brookville. It was the kind of night that made even the bravest soul shiver with unease. But for Tommy, a 17-year-old high school student, fear was the last thing on his mind as he walked home from his part-time job at the local diner. As Tommy turned the corner onto Elm Street, he spotted something that sent a chill down his spine, a figure lurking in the darkness, illuminated only by the flickering street lamp. It was a clown, dressed in garish colors with a wide, toothy grin plastered across its face. Tommy's heart began to race as he quickened his pace, but the clown matched his every step, its oversized shoes squeaking on the pavement. Panic surged through Tommy as he realized he was being followed, but he forced himself to keep calm. Maybe it was just someone pulling a prank, he thought, trying to reassure himself. But as Tommy glanced over his shoulder, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The clown was brandishing a gleaming knife, its blade catching the dim light in a menacing glint. With a surge of terror, Tommy broke into a sprint, his heart pounding in his chest as he raced towards the safety of home. The clown gave chase, its laughter echoing through the empty streets like a haunting melody. Tommy could feel its hot breath on his neck, could hear the scrape of its shoes on the pavement just inches behind him. He knew he had to think fast or become another victim of the nightmarish clown. Desperation fueled his actions as Tommy ducked into an alleyway, hoping to lose his pursuer in the maze of narrow passages. But as he turned a corner, he found himself face to face with a dead end, a towering brick wall blocking his escape. Trapped and cornered, Tommy's mind raced for a solution. And then, in a stroke of luck, he spotted a metal ladder leading up to a fire escape. Without hesitation, he scrambled up the ladder, his heart pounding in his ears as he reached the safety of the roof from his vantage point. Tommy watched as the clown prowled the alley below, its manic laughter echoing off the walls. For a moment, he feared it would find him, would drag him back down into the darkness. But then, to his relief, the clown turned and vanished into the night, leaving Tommy alone in the silence of the rooftop. With trembling hands, Tommy pulled out his phone and dialed 911, his voice shaking as he recounted his harrowing ordeal to the operator. Within minutes, the police arrived, their flashing lights cutting through the darkness as they searched the streets for any sign of the deranged clown. As Tommy was escorted home by the officers, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that lingered in the air. But despite the terror he had endured, he knew one thing for certain. He had faced his fear and emerged victorious, and as he stepped through the door of his house, bathed in the warm glow of safety, he knew that he would never forget the night he came face to face with the grinning clown.
Just the two of us.